New York is diverse, it's alive.
Vibrant, exciting, adventurous.
Hustle, bustle, crazy, busy.
It's always red, orange, hot. It's an intense place.
Relentless, unforgiving.
People come to this city to prove something. They come to the city to achieve something.
If you get on the subway or you're on the streets, even in restaurants, everybody's moving so fast with purpose.
You have the opportunity to be inspired from so many different angles.
It doesn't sleep, it pushes, and I'm drawn to it.
I've always wanted to own, operate restaurants in New York City. There was never any doubt in my mind that it would be in New York.
Everybody in the world comes to New York. And if you are the best at what you do wherever you're from, you come to New York and you try to do it in New York.
I opened Union Square Cafe in 1985. I was 27 years old. New York City, for a guy from St. Louis, represented you could truly have access to the best ingredients, the best talent, the most sophisticated audience.
The reason I am successful is because the people in New York City are very adventurous and willing to try something different and something new all the time.
I opened Anissa in 2000. To open a restaurant in New York City takes an incredible amount of money, and therefore takes a really ridiculous amount of drive. It has to choose you on some level.
When Bethany opened and we had, a lot of attention and the restaurant is packed, it was a tremendous feeling, and, we were completely in the weeds in the kitchen and, running at full speed. Every restaurant should feel that,
The best restaurants reflect a lot of things, and one of the things they reflect is where they're located, the place in which they are, and I think that WD-50 was very much a New York restaurant.
New York City was very, very important to the life of Tavla only because of the adventurous nature of our residents in this great city. So New York played a very, very important role, I believe, in making Indian food as popular as it is today. The reason why I stayed here to bring the cuisine back was because I didn't think we got a fair shake.
If we had Public in another city, I definitely would not feel the same. I don't think the restaurant would work anywhere else, but I also think it's so much about New York, 2003 through 2017.
At the end of 2015, Union Square Cafe had completed 30 years in its first location. The neighborhood of Union Square had become so valuable that we actually priced ourselves out of our own neighborhood, and we just couldn't afford to stay there anymore. And I was crushed. I was not ready to close the book on Union Square Cafe. It took us an entire year to find a new space that we could justifiably call Union Square Cafe. For some reason, there developed a great shame over closing a restaurant. It's almost as if you did something wrong when you close one. You can be an incredibly successful restaurant and not necessarily be here forever.
Anissa closed in May of 2017. I found myself yelling at my staff, and I didn't want to be that person, and it was time for me anyway. I had a knee replacement that was somewhat unsuccessful.
The restaurant closed December 31st, 2014, basically because the building got sold.
Public closed about 2 years ago now, in 2017. Our lease and our landlords literally doubled the rent per month. I do miss Public. I miss that tightrope of what Public was, of not offering people what they've seen before, but something totally unique and new. I miss it and I love it, but I love it for what it was.
I opened Code in June of 2017, and I closed Puerile September of 2017. There's an extreme excitement of opening the restaurant. There's extreme sadness of closing the restaurant. And there's extreme happiness of receiving a Michelin star for the second restaurant you opened. It being like a roller coaster is kind of almost an understatement.
This city is making it increasingly hard to own a small business. Real estate is just ridiculous. No cook can really afford to live here. I think this is a problem across the country, but it's especially hard in New York City because there's no housing.
I think the real estate math is part of a larger math problem that makes operating in New York City challenging.
The same size restaurant in anywhere else in USA would be a quarter or a fifth or even a sixth of the price that we pay in New York City.
Minimum wage has been changed, which favors some people, but I don't think it favors the people that need the most help, which are the people in the kitchen.
When I first got into business in the 1980s, there were a lot of pockets of the city that were not fully developed and where you could actually establish a restaurant with a much, much lower rent.
The red tape to get everything going is so hard, but I think life is going to throw you curveballs all the time. You have to change, and opening and closing restaurants and going through these ups and downs and these troughs makes the success when it comes a lot sweeter.
For me, it would be a personal failure not to succeed here, but I think for other people, it's not. And I think that that's important, that it not be considered a failure if you choose to go somewhere else. There's no judgments from my point. New York may judge you, but I don't judge you. And if I think New York does judge you.
I mean, having success in New York City, it just gave me some recognition that this guy has succeeded over there, so what he's doing is right. I think that if you make it here, people know who you are, and chance of success elsewhere is a lot easier.
Bright lights, big city, the whole thing is true. All of that is real and accurate. I think kind of everybody in a way wants to come here, but not everybody gets to stay. It is that idea of like being in it for the long haul and playing the long game and seeing the long game. It's about all the chips to the middle of the table every day, all in.
It's a proving ground for many different concepts from all over the world to kind of compete with one another.
It is competitive and it is tough, and you have to be someone who says, I want to run in that race, but I can't think of where else I'd rather do it.
There's a famous comedian that said, like, if you can make it in New York, you will fail everywhere else. So.
Even if you fail, which you will, which we all do, which is good and which is okay, New York will eventually come around to you.
I want to live in New York City. I need to have the diversity. I like to be able to disappear here.
I love the city. It's vibrant, it's energetic, it's fun, and you want that. I want that.
I have a passion and a drive to be great. I'd like to be able to do it on this stage.
I've been in the restaurant business here in New York for 26 years, and I continue to want to keep striking out at Yankee Stadium.